Now, if we transition to another guy that showed out, one of three of those UB Bulls.
That's right.
Speaking of Ingram and Andreessen here. So Andreessen, man, again, I'll admit, I said that he's more of a fringe player, fringe rosterable player, practice squad type. He showed out, this preseason and had shown us, like we saw in that Steelers game, he's got a knack for the ball, and now he's going to be on the roster as it stands right now. And how surprised are you about that? And what really stood out to you when you were watching his film from this preseason?
I'm surprised just from when he was initially added. Like, I never thought twice about him making the roster. I thought it was cool that he went to UB. I didn't even know that he was from Buffalo until after the Pittsburgh game when Greg told me on the post. Like, I had no idea about any of that. So I was surprised from that regard. After seeing his performance against Pittsburgh, I thought he had a really good chance to make the roster just because of 2 points. One, because of his play. I thought the speed would translate well on special teams and how he plays in space, but also just how the rest of the position group was shaping up. Deion Jones, I didn't think was going to make it. Moreau had some injury concerns. He ended up making it as well. But Spector has been banged up and not really shown anything. I just thought not by default, but given who he was competing against, he had a solid shot to make it. The big thing for me that sticks out is just how he processes things in front of him. It really starts with his eyes and, again, the mental side of it, but then being able to translate that to a quick trigger, his ability to process, shoot gaps, make plays. Even on this one here, you can see him. He calls out to Ulofoshio initially, the direction of where the run is going, and you can see him just kind of process from gap to gap as he steps forward, coming through like, okay, here, I'm going to keep it. Oh, nope, he's not going in there. Okay, I'm going to go into this one. Is he coming in here? Nope. Okay, all right, he's breaking to the corner. Exactly. Let me screen. You can almost literally like see him being like, is he going here? Nope. Oh, is he going here? Nope. Oh, he's going here? Okay, I'll go make the play. And he's just, I wish he was this good in coverage like he is coming forward, but I think this is a really encouraging performance from a guy who is a depth linebacker, who doesn't have this high-level college experience. He's shown a real knack for getting to the ball. I think the instincts and the feel just show up regularly for him. Yeah,
it's real. It's real with him. There's no doubt. His ability to scrape down the line of scrimmage on top of the processing and just leveraging the gap while leveraging the ball. Like, same type of thing here. It's very methodical, man. Like, you see him processing everything and leveraging the ball. And now on this one, he's got a blocker out in front of him. What's he do? Knockback ability. Get off the block and make the tackle. This is what probably stood out the most for me, is his hands and pop on contact when he had a blocker or had blockers out in front of him. His ability to shed blocks and knock those guys back on contact, really, given his size, he's kind of shorter, it doesn't look like he has super long arms, but he's got that knockback ability on top of the processing, the scraping, and the leverage. And he did a great job on this play of working down the line of scrimmage, seeing what guy is going to come block him, dropping him, just immediately shedding that block, and then bringing the running back down, near the line of scrimmage. Just great work against the run.
Yeah, and this is the first thing that stuck out in the Steelers game too, was that first play where he comes downhill and pops Daniels at guard and sheds him and makes the play. And you know what's nice too, like, Eric, this kind of play, like making a play out in space, shedding somebody, staying free and making the tackle. This is also something that's very translatable to like kick coverage, for example. And his skill set plays in a variety of ways. And that's where I think a majority of his snaps are going to come this year. But if we're looking at him just as a linebacker, there are real plays coming forward. This is a nice one too. 70 is climbing to the second level. I almost feel like 70 thinks, oh, well, he took himself out of the play, so I'm just going to keep climbing and it doesn't matter. But he undercuts him, stays clean, and then makes the stop at the line of scrimmage. Again, just coming forward, his recognition and then quick trigger mentally and physically, it just works consistently for him.
And this is where that processing is super important. So on the snap, you're going to see two things happen. You're going to have split flow. So, the ball's showing this way and you have split flow. So you have flow going in the opposite direction. So when you have split flow like this guy's coming across the block, the far side defensive end. That split flow, that block right there is, we always talk about, is adding a gap, right? And to the right side of the Bills formation. But you also have this orbit right here, which is also kind of doing the same thing. So post snap, what the defense has to do is process what gaps are being eliminated from the left and being added to the right and then adjust. And the Bills call this a back call. You always hear Milano call it out or Bernard call it out, back, 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 because while they started off in one gap, they have to go back a gap or two because of the gaps that are being added to the right. And so, like you said, right now, Andreessen already sees 70 coming to get him. And now he has to make a decision. Do I want to undercut it or do I want to go work around him because the ball may be cutting back outside? He undercuts this block and chops that arm down and just finds the ball. Like that decision making, that processing post snap with that split flow was just beautiful. And this maybe his best run stop because of all the processing that needed to be, done after the snap here. And he's able to bring that running back down for the run stop. Just great stuff processing wise from Andreessen on that play.
Yeah. And this, I feel like for most people, this is going to just seem so simple or straightforward, but with all that eye candy, and again, all you need to do is just stop for a quarter second or a half a second to let that blocker get to you or to be slightly out of position. If he doesn't process this with the efficiency and the accuracy that he does, it puts him at a disadvantage from a positioning standpoint and from a leverage standpoint. If he's a hair slower, he might not be able to undercut it like he does here. He might have to try and go through 70 or go around him, like you mentioned. But because he reads it all and then directs traffic so succinctly and directs himself, it's just a good play. Again, he does a really good job kind of reading everything in front of him from a run standpoint and coming forward and making plays.
Right. And I think this game against the Panthers, he wasn't as flawless as he was against the Steelers. So you saw the very good processing post snap with that split flow, and that back call. Well, here's one where he executes the back call, but he doesn't follow through. You see him pointing right there. He's calling it out, back, back, back. And what he needs to do is just stay right in this gap. This is the gap he is going back to. And so I don't know if he just misread Anku here and thought maybe, hey, he's going to take that, so I'm going to cover for him. But either way, you see him jump outside. And what does that do? That opens up and parts the Red Sea right there of the Bills defense, and the running back is able to score. So this one, again, I'd like to see him he's calling it out. Go get it. Go get it. But this, again, just shows that, hey, football's hard. First of all, football is difficult. And, your mistakes are going to be had. And so this was one of the mistakes that happened for Andreessen in the run game against the Panthers. And really one of the very few this entire preseason, if we're talking about stopping the run.
Yeah, the good call. Like there are some more of these instances from a coverage standpoint, but really against the run, it's very few and far between. And your analysis of it here, I'm pretty much in lockstep with, so I don't have too much to add. I feel like, especially because we just watched him execute the back call and he calls it out again here. My thought is he sees Elianku's positioning and is thinking he's going to be in that gap because as you have highlighted, Kingsley Jonathan is setting the edge outside the tight end. Kareem Jackson is coming down from his spot, so he's got that gap. There's no reason for Andreessen to also flow outside and be where Kareem Jackson is, and then ironically where Elianku ends up. I think that he thinks Elianku is going to stay in that gap and be right there. But again, we talk about it all the time. Like this is why run fits and run defense is a coordinated, structured dance and takes everybody doing their part. Because if you just get the slight miscommunication or a slight misread, it can lead to a big play for an offense.
And in the linebacker level, the second level, even safeties when they come up, they're not just reading the flow of the play. They're also reading the defenders in front of them, because there are times in this one gap up the field defense where D tackles will get blown out of their gaps and get bumped out of the gaps. And now the linebackers have to make them right.
I was gonna say, we talk about that all the time with Terrell Bernard, right? He makes his defensive linemen right because he sees, okay, you're supposed to have that A gap, but you got blown out of it. Cool. I'm going to fit that A gap instead and I'll make you right.
And so, and I think what happened here is initially the head placement of the D tackle here is telling Andreessen, hey, he's got this, but that's actually not the D tackle's gap. The D tackle's gap is the one that when he lets go right there, and Andreessen should be here, that is the correct run fit there. And unfortunately they blow it. And again, a touchdown is scored. So you see the good and the bad. All right. And so we're going to do some coverage stuff now. Cause again, he was kind of up and down when it came to some coverage stuff too. This is, on their touchdown drive, you're seeing some great communication here on a banjo
Yes,
call.
this is
And a banjo
beautiful.
call is essentially, hey, the Bills play a bunch of coverages that help their defenders maintain leverage. You're running this mesh concept, you're getting these crossers going here. And so the Bills have built-in calls and adjustments and communication to pass those along so that the defenders don't get out leverage. And you see that the Bills do a great job, specifically Andreessen and Deion Jones, of working through all this nonsense and traffic. And you see them pointing things out. And so as that running back exits out, and we always talk about this in the mesh, play, he's usually the first read. And that's why you see kind of young look out wide there. And so immediately Andreessen and Jones call out the banjo. They say, hey, running back's going out wide. Safety picks him up. That means there's going to be some crossers coming towards them. And so they communicate it. And so immediately you see Andreessen body is beautiful, right at that inside receiver running that drag across. He picks him up. He passes the other one to Deion Jones. It's beautiful. Yes. It's beautiful. Unfortunately, the quarterback is able to break the pocket and make a play outside of script. But this is a very good banjo call, Ant, right? The communication was on point. Unfortunately, the quarterback extended the play and made a play with his legs and arm down the field. But when we're talking Andreessen and the linebackers at that second level, very good communication on this banjo call.
This was one of my favorite plays of the entire preseason. And also just to kind of start where you finished, this is a ridiculous throw by Bryce Young, rolling to his left and opening up his hips and then firing it. And then Deontay Johnson, who you talked about earlier, he senses it and then he uncovers and breaks off his route to get to the sideline. So it's a really good job by Deontay Johnson uncovering, and then just a ridiculous throw from Bryce Young. So kudos to them for kind of making themselves right when they were initially wrong. But you see it there highlighting Joe Andreessen. He's got some kind of like junior air traffic controller to his game in the Terrell Bernard mold there. But like you said, like the communication and the passing off was beautiful. Jones and Andreessen both call out the rail. Williamson crashes down on it to try and jump it or cut it off at the first down marker if Young tries to hit it right away. And then look at that pass off on the two drag routes underneath. Andreessen smashes into his guy, walls him, and then carries him horizontally, goes right with him. Jones picks up the other man. You highlighted Jamarcus Ingram, who slams on the brakes because he's initially following Thielen, who's running that underneath drag route over the middle.
Kind of replacing both these linebackers in the middle.
Exactly. Sitting there, and so that way he can cover up that spot route in the middle that Xavier Legette is running, but then Elam's running with him. Like, this is a cover one call, man coverage. It's easy to get your wires crossed and get caught in man coverage. Mesh, especially mesh rail, beats man coverage all the time. That was great communication by the defense as a whole, great recognition, and then execution post snap. And then you get this one, which just pisses me off because they did such a good job passing off.
I don't know what
and
happened.
Then you just get the slight, and you see the hand signal, like they're throwing up like the diamond or like a box sign. I know you broke this down on Twitter and talked about it being a box call. It looks like they're all on the same page. Then Andreessen just goes with the flat route.
Yeah, it's interesting. Again, third down inside the 10-yard line. They're all giving the call multiple times. All of them, all boxing. They're all showing that box with their hand signal. And so what the Bills are doing, they're just playing 4 defenders over these 3 eligibles to the top of the screen. And so they're just going to pattern match those routes. And that means if this running back exits outside the tackle box, you're not going to have Andreessen, who's in man coverage. You're not going to have him chasing that and getting out leveraged by that running back, especially if he runs the rail up the sideline. What is the call? He calls push. He says push. So I'm pushing the running back because he's going up the sideline to Deion Jones. And that first crosser that comes inside is usually Andreessen's guy. Well, Andreessen and Jones both go for the rail route. And now you have that number 2 slipping inside up the seam for the easy touchdown. So you saw a good banjo call on that mesh call. This one was a bad banjo call. Again, an up and down game. We're talking Andreessen. But these are the type of things. This isn't a physical issue. This is he needs reps. He needs reps. This is something that over time he's not gonna focus in on that rail so much. He's gonna execute that push call and take that number 2 coming across the middle. I think that he'll learn from this pretty easily. I'd be surprised if he makes this mistake against this formation ever again.
Yeah, I think that's a fair call. Like, it's still so weird to me because they all look on this like to be on the same page. I don't know why he thought he should vacate the middle and go to the flat, especially because they all call it out initially. So my thought is just, he just had like his wires got crossed or he thought something else. Like I feel like it's more of a one-off mistake than it is some like symptomatic thing. Again, like the process, I hate to use that phrase, but like the process is kind of sound, like the recognition, the call, the adjustment. He just made the wrong move post snap. And you even see Deion Jones calling out to him, as you highlighted right there. He's throwing that out there of like, hey, that guy's going inside. He's your man. And instead, both of them go to the flat. Andreessen vacates his spot, and then 81 is just kind of sitting there like, oh, hey, I'm wide open. 81 even puts his hands up after he catches the ball like, oh, man, I'm wide open. That was kind of like easy.
Yeah, it was, again, it was a more of an up and down game than the Steelers game. But again, the Steelers game was more of like, hey, we're going to run the ball, and he's very good at stopping the run. So I understand, the differences between this game, and especially if you're talking, who Andreessen was playing up against, some of the starters there for the Panthers. But
absolutely,
I'm excited for him. I am. Again, I admitted that I thought he was more of a practice squad, fringe roster guy. But good for him, man. Like, that is awesome. Like, he's earned everything that has come his way. And I am honestly happy. He's a linebacker. I'm happy to watch him develop, especially behind Terrell Bernard. Like, yes, please. And so he seems like a very instinctual, but also a heady player. And so I'm excited to watch him develop in this Bills defense under Babbage, under McDermott, and again, behind Terrell Bernard and Milano. I'm excited for him. He's got to work on some of the coverage stuff, but I think you can do those things. That was just a mental mistake. That was like, oh, he didn't get outmatched. You know what I mean? It wasn't a physical thing. It's not okay. Cause I know a lot of people are saying like, he can't, execute man-to-man coverage. Like, that's exactly why they have that call, so that he doesn't get outmatched. You get those banjo calls going. You just got to execute it properly post snap.
Yeah. I think that's again, super fair assessment. And again, this dude, he only had, even like him coming from UB is not a powerhouse, but he also only played at UB for 1 year. He went to Bryant College before that. So this is a significant jump in terms of quality of opponent that he's playing against. So let's give him some time on task. Let's kind of see how he develops and what he can do. But I think he's got a good solid foundation in terms of instincts, quick trigger and processing. And again, just got to clean some things up from a coverage standpoint, but his head is in the right place. We'll kind of see what he does going forward. Again, really, really big kudos to him. Shout out. It's got to be awesome as hell to be a Buffalo born and raised kid, and now you're playing for the Buffalo Bills.